Thank you. Yeah. Ohayou gozaimasu. There we go. It was not on your end. See, that's I need you. You're my sound guy. I said, おはようございます。お久しぶりです。日本では朝10時15分です。Something like that. Yeah. I hear the little baby in the background. It's a good day. Got some lessons later, but no side job today, no morning lesson today, so here we are once again streaming just like the old days. Yeah. And to be honest, there's a deep trying to talk about textbooks today. There is a deep desire I have to deep desire I have to actually make a textbook. I almost, it's like literally actually before I even thought of teaching Japanese, my first idea was like, I want to write a book about how to learn a second language. Because, you know, my thought was like, the reason people will struggle with Japanese is not because they're bad at, they suck at Japanese or whatever. It's because they've never learned a language before. Like when I first started, it was like, I went to school, I had a textbook, learned in class, did tons of stuff in that class, and it was every day, virtually every day at the beginning. This was like a 1 hour class. It's like 1 hour and 10. I forget. Was it 50 minutes? I actually forget, but it was like a 1 hour class every day, literally every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then eventually it became like a 2.5 hour class, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or something like that when I was in college. And, yeah, but it wasn't enough. It, like, definitely nothing really prepared me for, studying abroad and like what I would need to do when I got there. So I feel like that was like kind of one of my first desires was to, I was like, if people just knew how to learn a second language, or, if I could share what I shared when I was learning, then everything would be okay. But it is so hard. It is so hard to write a book. I don't know if you've ever tried before, but I don't know, man. Writing a book's probably I tried just a little bit a couple times, but it's really hard. It requires, I don't know, maybe it's different if you're like writing a novel or whatever, but when you're trying to write like kind of an educational piece or something like actually instructional rather than just like, whatever flows off your head. Obviously, like, good books take planning, like a good, fictional book or whatever. Or especially, like, I feel like sci-fi books just take so much planning, if you want to be scientifically accurate while creating, like, made-up worlds and stuff. But, yeah, it's really hard. And then I kind of eventually moved on to my business idea, and then eventually that turned into like, I gotta make a textbook. That seems like the right thing to do. And so, to be honest, like, I don't think all textbooks are bad. I suspect that the problem is setting out to write a book, but if you write a lot of smaller things, article length pieces, you'll eventually have enough material to assemble into a coherent book. That is true. I think you're right. It's like you eventually have enough material, right? At least definitely personally, because I think organization is definitely not my strong suit. I'm very disorganized for various things. But the big problem is like, okay, let me do a textbook. It's like I can generally think of like what I would want to put in it, but it's like, let's say you have the articles, right? It's like textbooks are really hard to make. I think so. I don't actually blame textbook makers too much. To be honest, I think they do really good jobs. Most of them, I think, if they have a successful textbook. The weird thing about textbooks is they kind of are like pigeonholed into a certain market, because I think Japanese from zero is probably the very rare exception, because it is designed for somebody who wants to learn on their own. That you want to say, like probably show this instead for now. I'm gonna grab a little bit of coffee in a second, but I think I also might change the title of my stream and stuff if I can. Is that possible with this stuff? Can you edit? Let's do that. What was I saying? Yeah, like I don't blame the companies. Like, so the problem is like, so Japanese from zero is probably the exception. It's designed for like the solo learner, but I would say the majority of almost all textbooks are written with the idea that it's for a classroom, right? And that right away is kind of like bad for anyone that's not it's a disadvantage. It is not as good for somebody who wants to learn on their own. It's like, what do you actually, how are you going to do that? Depending on how that book is designed, it's like, oh, it's practice conversations. Well, practice conversations are very good for learning. They can be good for learning. But if you have nobody to practice with, then it's like, okay, now what do I do? Right now, then like maybe a huge portion of that book is useless. So that's, to me, like, that's the first thought, is like, I don't think I would, that's the biggest market. If you want Japanese from zero, I forget his name, what his actual name is, but I forget. Dave, not Dave, I forget. But if you do it, like, really kudos to him. Like, he was ahead of the game, and he made something, and it's not perfect, but it's very good, and a lot of people can learn from it, and that's awesome. I think for me, I would take a little bit different of approach. Like, I don't want to teach people hiragana and katakana. I think that is probably people don't seem to have problems learning hiragana and katakana if they want to. Virtually every person that I've talked to in here, it's like, I want to learn Japanese. Like, they're like, yeah, I already know hiragana. And it's like, okay. Like, I very, if ever, rarely meet someone that is saying, I don't know how to memorize hiragana. I can't figure out how to memorize katakana. I've never heard that, I've heard, I don't know it yet, but I don't think, memorizing the alphabet or learning hiragana is really an issue for anybody. If it is, maybe dyslexia or something, and I can't help you there. But if it is an issue and you're not learning it, it's usually a motivation issue. It's something outside, external, outside of learning. So don't think we can really pay too much attention to that. I once read that back in the 1700s, it would take basically a week to take an illiterate English-speaking adult and get them to the point of being able to read. Learning kana is based, yeah. And I've also heard, that's awesome. That's a cool fact. Always, I think old history facts that are still relevant are sometimes some of the coolest facts, some of the coolest information. Yeah. So I think, yeah. I agree. So, I mean, it took me a while to memorize them, but I was learning very slow. My school was teaching very slow. I don't know. My situation is unique. Like, we didn't really need to learn hiragana, so I didn't. If we didn't need to, no point in really trying. It's more of a casual class and stuff, and we slowly learned. But yeah, I've heard many people say, "Oh, I learned hiragana in a week." Kana is basically perfect Anki fodder too. Yeah, long story short, people don't seem to have problems. Therefore, I'm not gonna waste 10 pages in a book on it. I think the same expectation was with Mina no Nihongo as well, where you're just everybody just came into Minna. I did Minna no Nihongo 2, and then if there's a 3, I think I did 3 or some of it for when I was studying abroad. That's the book we used. And there's definitely good things about it. But yeah. Whatever. I will just don't know if these things I'll tell you what, the most annoying thing about streaming is like attracting people, I suppose. But just the figuring out which titles and thumbnails, blah blah blah. So I'm just gonna do the thing that has had the most success. Can I not change the... Alright. So yeah, like, not gonna waste time on that. So if I were to write a textbook, my main approach would be like, I want to write a textbook for people that want to speak Japanese or have conversations in Japanese. I'm not trying to help you, and then hopefully help them transition into how to immerse at home if they're not home, or how to immerse at in Japan if they're in Japan. So kind of those two elements. They're very different. All right, let me get some water / drink real quick. 1 second.
Japanese language mentor has been a great help in my Japanese language journey. I was a little unsure of what to study or what to do next, and it's fun. Like it's more fun when you're talking about flashcards or kanji. I really look forward to the lessons. He does a great job of telling you what's important when you're trying to learn conversational Japanese, and it's definitely helped me stay motivated when I'm studying, and I highly recommend it.
たくさんボートがある。
わかった。大丈夫。そうね。いいね。じゃあ、もう一つやりましょう。もう一つ。じゃあ、次選んでください。
はい。おととい。
おととい。
おととい。
OK。じ じゃあ、おとといは、お母さんに、なんて言った？お母さんになんて言った？はい。I don't need this. So I thought it'd be interesting to, no, interesting to me. I don't know about interesting to everybody else, but I was like gonna look at Minna no Nihongo, and then I was like, oh, they have a, you know, a preface or a maegaki. So I thought it'd be good practice for me to practice pitch accent because that's what I'm trying to work on right now. And kind of see what their perspective is. You know, like that's what we're kind of talking about is like what's our mentality beforehand? Like what is our mentality as we're going into like maybe writing a textbook or creating a textbook. And so yeah, I'm curious what they had to say. So 本書はみんなの日本語という署名が示すように初めて日本語を学ぶ人が誰でも楽しく学べるよう、また教える人にとっても興味深く教えられるように I had never seen this before. I just read this first part a second ago. 3カ年 I've never seen or heard that. I was very surprised. I literally thought that was only for 3ヶ月. So 3ヶ月. I've never heard it for anything else, but apparently it can be done with years as well. Very big surprise. の、年月 I'm guessing 年月をかけて、企画編集したもので新日本語の基礎の、姉妹編とも言うべき本格的な教科書です。So for people studying Japanese for the first time, and also, you know, what would be a provoking and fun text for teachers as well. さて、近年日本語教育はますます多様化してきております。国際関係の発展に伴い、諸外国との、人的交流が深まる中、so much different reading out loud than just reading. I think it's actually very interesting. You don't really have to think as much. 様々な背景と日的目的を持つ外国人が日本の地域社会に受け入れられてきています。このような外国人の増加による日本語教育をめぐる社会環境の変化はまたそれぞれの日本語教育の現場にも影響を及ぼし、学習ニーズの多様化とそれらに対する個別の対応が、求められています。I mean, very vague statement, to be honest. It's basically just like, you know, in recent years, you know, there's more, you know, teaching Japanese has become more diverse. You know, we got to keep up with the times to meet everybody's needs. It's like, okay, yeah. このような時期にあたり、3A ネットワークは、国の内外で、長年にわたり日本語教育の実践にあたってこられた多くの、方々のご意見とご要望に応えて、みんなの日本語を出版することとなりました。Okay. This is why we made this. If you try to please everybody, you please nobody. I wonder if that. Do you know how? It's probably not, but the first time I ever heard that kind of phrase was from The Incredibles, where he says, "If everybody's super, then nobody is." And since then, I've seen phrases and quotes like that, which I think is cool. I don't know if they kind of started that or is just something I'd never heard before, but until then, I always think of Incredibles when I hear those kind of phrases. みんなの日本語学習、すなわちみんなの日本語は新日本語の基礎との特徴、学習項目と、学習方法の、分かりやすさを生かすとともに So they're trying to make it easy to understand 会話の場面や、登場人物など、学習者の多様化に対応してより凡庸性の高いものとするなど So凡庸性 is a word I've never seen, but essentially like average, everyday, like typical, maybe typical, standard, normal. 国の内外国の内外のさまざまな学習者と地域の特性にも支障なく日本語の学習が楽しく進められるように内容の充実と工夫を図りました。みんなの日本語の対象は、職場、家庭、学校、地域などで日本語によるコミュニケーションを今すぐ必要としている外国人。So this is right. This is kind of what you're saying, Bridgewater, is like this is saying that we need to, like they're saying, oh, this is, for people, who are we targeting? I mean, yeah, みんなの日本語 it's kind of an ironic, it's like an oxymoronic statement, right? We are targeting, so for everybody Japanese, we are targeting who? Everybody. People at work, home, school, like in the region, local, I guess, who immediately need to communicate in Japanese. Interesting. Foreigners, right? This is for beginners. 初級の教材ですが、登場する外国人の皆さんと、日本人の交流の場面には There's so many comments. What's up, CM? Oh my gosh. できるだけ日本事情 I wonder if that changes. So this is the part of pitch accent that I don't fully understand yet. I know that 事情 that's how you should say it by itself. 事情 But if it's combined with 日本事情 in my body makes me want to go 日本事情 But I wonder if it should be 日本事情 That doesn't feel right. This is the part of pitch accent that I don't fully know when and why it changes yet, other than just the instinct that I have. できるだけ日本事情と I don't know. The Japanese information facts と日本人の社会生活、日常生活を反映させるようになりました。Okay, and it's trying to reflect basically everyday life and things that are actually relevant in Japan. 主として一般社会人を対象にしていますが Okay, interesting. It's targeting adults. That's good. もちろん、大学進学の予備課程あるいは専門学校大学での 短期集中用教科書としてもおすすめできるものです。おすすめできるもので。I have trouble saying that. おすすめできる。おすすめできるものです。おすすめできるものです。I think that's right. But of course, it can be used for school. なお、当社では、学習者の多様性と現場の個々のニーズに応えるため、今後も、引き続き新しい学習教材を教材ですか？学習教材を積極的に制作してまいりますので、変わらぬ。Don't know how to read that. Weird words like this. 愛情 No? It's not hitai, is it? What is that? Aiko. Okay. It was as I knew it to be. Patronage. Interesting. Thank you for your unwavering patronage. 最後に本州のにあたりまして、各方面からのご意見、授業での使用など多大なご協力をいただきました。ここに深く感謝申し上げます。3A ネットワーク、はいはいはい。So, they are saying it's for everyone, but it's geared towards adults. You can use it in school. And they choose how to use it. So, pronunciation, everyday greetings and numbers. Good. I guess this is a nice approach. This is kind of the same approach that I think I do want. Mondai ni wa kikitori. Interesting. Okay, let's see how they... Wait, what is this? Honyaku bunpo. They have grammar explanations. This is... Oh, interesting. So this is how they say you can learn it the best. Learning it the best would be... remember words well. Okay. Listening, this is their method, they say. So first, listen. So memorize learn pronunciation and accent, correct pronunciation and accent by listening to the tape. I mean, such generic information. I've definitely said this too. It's like, just make sentences. So like, if you hear a new word, make a short practice making a short sentence with it. Definitely do that. Not just the word. So you need to remember not just the word, but how to use it within a sentence. That is accurate, but it's so hard to just hear a word and then somehow make a sentence with it. Like, how? Hopefully, I guess they provide more context with their own stuff. Yeah, this is true. This is something I've kind of been neglecting myself. Basically making... maybe I was thinking this was structure, but it's not. I guess it is. Yeah, that is true. That practice conversations were good for that. They were very good for kind of helping me, even if I didn't know how to do it by memory. I think eventually when I tried to create sentences on my own, it did allow me to memorize them on my own. Or did allow me to kind of, if I was guessing, at least have the right type of order. You know, that's what I do see this actually consistently from people who study from textbooks. They do have a very good job, do a very good job of having like good sentence structure. So that, which honestly ends up being super important, so that even if you mess up words, your order and most of your grammar is correct, which it's like, oh, you didn't know the word, who cares? But now you can at least, you know, have a conversation, even if it's not correct, so to say. Listen to the tape over and over. So repetition, practice, and prepare. Yeah. I mean, this is all like honestly really good advice. And truthfully, this is why I kind of want to develop my own textbook, is for my students, so that I can, I mean, I guess other people, but so that there's more that they can do before and in between lessons. And for people that just start with me, so that they have something to follow. But it's so hard. There's a girl at my church who's very gifted in like organization and like very like nice, simple but beautiful, like, I don't know, art. Just like kind of not scribbles, but like, what's the word? Drawings, I guess. And they're very good. All right, let's get into the good stuff. Interesting. So, yeah, I feel like this is a useless page. Like, providing information. Oh, I wonder about this. Like, providing all this information. Yeah, and here's the other stuff. Like, you know, very confusing to like a non-native speaker. Personally, like, they're gonna just skip past this. Like, if this was a book and you pick up by your own, like, I don't know what this is, you know, and you're like, I guess this is all the stuff, and you just, all right, let's go. This is important. Interesting. Wait, is this called Hatsuon as well? Interesting. The This is good. This is good. I think this is something I might put in a textbook. People can learn hiragana and katakana, but they usually don't learn this. Especially like the kyakyukyo, this kind of stuff. They might slip by them. This stuff, like the bowl choong, now I know what it's officially called, choong. The bowl is definitely something that especially Americans need. Especially Americans. Americans seem to get this, I guess I should say Westerners, but I mostly speak with Americans, get this wrong all the time. This is harder. Chisaitsu, Sokuon. Interesting. I'm learning the official names now. That's cool. Shuts. Yeah. Is the Yotsuon? Why is this? What is this supposed to represent? I don't understand. Maybe that's the okay, the ya you yo abbreviations. They do have a method for accent. Niwa namae tenki hon kutsu hashi ichi ichi. I can only do it because I actually know it. Sensei. Yeah, sensei. Ototo. I thought Dogen said something different about ototo. Maybe that's because he had ga. So that's the problem with learning pitch accent, is you'll like learn it like this. You're like, oh, I got it. And then it'll be in a sentence like, oh no, it changes. And I think that's the harder part. And honestly, this type of pitch accent I find to be more useless. But better than nothing, I suppose. My book that me and Pyrrhus used had a they had like an accent system for pitch accent, like, you know, having like accent on an A and stuff. I don't remember exactly how it worked, but I naturally learned some pitch accent that way, and I didn't even know what they were teaching. Intonation. 来ませんか? Ah, いいですね。します。Ah, I guess I never really thought about it in that way. That's good. They have a little phrase sheet. Okay. Where does it? There we go. Yeah. So this is, and I'll probably finish here, but it's like, I'll look, you know, it'd be good to look more into this, but 私はマイクミラーです. Like, everything sounds so good, and everything is like a great start. Like, I'm almost excited about it, even as somebody who's not learning. But then, this is supposed to be for people who, like, I get it. I just don't. There's no explanation either. They just. おはようございます。おはようございます。佐藤さん、こちらはマイクミラーさんです。はじめまして。This is definitely, if somebody is learning, I don't even know how they got the job in the first place, but if they know zero Japanese or some, and they're trying to learn some, アメリカから来ました。どうぞよろしく。どうぞよろしく。Yeah. I would much rather teach somebody よろしくお願いします, you know. There's just certain things that ミラさんはアメリカ人です. What is this? 123. Oh, okay. Yeah, the repetition thing. This is good. This is good. What is AIUI? This is supposed to be basically pure immersion with interpretation support given by in-person educators. It doesn't seem that way, as I understand it. Okay. It seemed like it can be, but it also is supposed to be. Now, this might be the. I can't actually tell because this is Chinese up here, but maybe this is the instructor booklet, but it appears that this is also something you should be able to do by yourself. 会社員です. Right. But I do think, especially me, I'm guilty of overlooking the importance of simple stuff like this. And now I'm kind of going back in my own approach, but kind of going back to this. You know, when I hear my students, more than one of my students, that's the nice thing is when you have, you know, multiple students making similar mistakes, you're kind of like, this is something I need to address. I need to kind of go back and make sure that they understand it's this or this. This is how you answer. Gupta さんも会社員ですか? はい、Gupta さんも会社員です。They listen. I suppose this can be good too. I wonder what the better order is. I wonder if you should, like, if I did a book with listening stuff, you know, watch a YouTube video. Watching a YouTube video would be best, you know. But it's like, you have them watch the video with no subtitles and like try to figure out the situation. And then you show them this. And this is where I feel like the learning a second language element fits in, is because anybody who's never learned a second language is going to be like, I have to know what the word kaishain means. I have to know. And if they don't figure it out, then it's going to be bothering them. There's something bothering me. And so that's the tricky part, and that's kind of what I hope to do, is I want to make everyone self-sufficient. Like, that's my goal. It's like, I don't want you to just go away having learned some new words and maybe like trying sentences. Like, that's good, but I want to make people self-sufficient with their language learning and their Japanese. And I'm excited because I'm developing this new, I guess not developing, but putting words and ideas into putting a name to the method, putting a name and organizing the method that I used to do immersion when I was learning. And when I was watching stuff to get better. And I don't know, there never seems to be any practical advice no real practical advice on how to immerse. Nothing that I can find. There might be little tidbits here and there, but in the end, I think people just walk away with having tons of questions. So maybe that's what I'll talk about next time and share with you guys kind of my thoughts. But what is this? Are you listening to music on Amazon? Well, it's fine. I'll just... Yes. It's fine. I'm gonna get off anyway. All right. Well, that's textbooks. Let's scroll through a little bit more. それは何の雑誌ですか? Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. Like, this is supposed to be immersion in a way. I guess I do like that. Have you ever studied Latin? There's a infamous textbook called Lingua Latina Persa Illustrata. It's written entirely in Latin. That's funny. That's interesting, though, since, I wonder if that can be done, since, Latin is similar to, like, Spanish, where maybe if we can pick up enough on the words and what they might mean, we could potentially figure it out. Definitely not with Japanese, unfortunately, but yeah. これは辞書です。これはstop using computer in textbooks, for goodness sake. This too. Everybody needs to stop saying computer. And I asked, okay, so I'm on my volleyball team. Are you sure it can't be done? In a textbook, I would say no. But I'm not that clever when it comes to stuff like that. Textbook plus video? Maybe. But textbook only, I think it required, in order for it to work for everybody, I don't think a textbook only approach would work for everybody. Some people might learn well that way, but a lot of people are visual learners and need more than just an explanation. Most people are not like that, I think. What would be the name of my book? What's up, Obaka? Oba. Is that a pun? Because that's funny. What would be the name of my book? That's a good question. I thought it's something in the past. I mean, it would require definitely some thinking. I don't know. Did you have any ideas? Yeah. Book titles are one of the last things to settle on, I think. Yeah, for sure. It's fun to think about, though. Did you have ideas? I mean, the idea that I want to convey is that it's, if you want to learn Japanese, if you want to learn how to speak Japanese naturally, and something with immersion, like so that people who want immersion can go there. Because I don't think there's any real like Japanese textbooks that care about immersion, really, which is strange. Like, people need to understand that if you live in Japan, the world is your oyster. Like you have infinite everything. Do you guys? You probably maybe you were there, Bridge, but like I think it was honestly like one of the first stream. Maybe it was the first stream I ever did. I can't remember. One of the first. This guy came in. He has a YouTube channel. I can't. Definitely won't be able to find him. Maybe his name was like Nick or something. But he was like talking. He was almost like bragging about how he's been living in Japan for a year and he's done zero. He has been living in Japan for a year and he is intentionally not speaking Japanese. I mean, if it's for the content, I guess, and the clout, like whatever, but I just like couldn't even believe that he said that. And then like you're that is, I'm sorry, it's just dumb. Please don't ever do that. You're holding yourself back so much. Like in a year, after 10 months of living in Japan, I could virtually have a basic conversation about anything. Not technical stuff, and I was not able to discuss religion or philosophy, nothing advanced like that yet. I could get by and be very bad at it, and people would probably not understand a lot of the things I would try to say, because you're just not forming your thoughts correctly, and it takes a long time because they're very long and like confusing. But yeah. But if I were, yeah, something about, you're learning Japanese on your own. It's a textbook that you can pick up and start learning Japanese if you already know hiragana, katakana. I might like give them like an idea of a resource, like, hey, if you haven't learned it yet, do this. Use just use flashcards. People can memorize them in a week, or go to this website that helps you. Honestly, I think just a straight up memorization process is all you need for that stuff. Like, I don't think oh, this one looks like a tree and it's spelled te. It's te, like tree. And I'm like, that starts with the T. I'm like, this is like way too much assistance for something so simple as memorizing A. If you've never seen A before, you don't know it's A, but it's like, wasn't that hard to apply this shape with a sound. Especially with Japanese, it's very easy. The volleyball guy. If it's a textbook with an audio accompaniment, learning kana ceases to be a prerequisite. That's also true, because you can hear. Still very much helps to see, like, people who are beginning, they like I had a student who could read hiragana and some katakana, but he, like the stuff above, he wasn't really aware of, like, especially the more regular stuff like cafe. If you write that in katakana, it's fu and a small e. Like, that wasn't described up above. Fe, cafe. But if you explain how small letters work, small kana works, then that lets somebody at least know, like, and you're aware. Oh, so fu plus small a becomes fe, stuff like that. I don't know why they keep using computers. So this 70-year-old guy, who's like pretty like knowledgeable at some stuff like this. And I was actually thinking of violin. Yeah, definitely rare. And most Japanese people just pronounce it ba anyway, or, boot, or whatever word they're trying to say. I was like, did Japanese people ever say computer? And he was like, yeah, like in the 70s. And I was like, come on. So back in the 70s, we were saying computer. But I mean, literally everywhere now says pasokon. Everybody says pasokon. Noto pasokon. Even laptop is noto pasokon. It's not noto computer, So little things like that really bother me in textbooks. A lot. I don't like that. This is supposed to be modern, and like you're gonna sound like an idiot. Like imagine you buy this textbook and then you go to work and you're like, oh, like yeah, I'm all ready. I'm all ready. Uh, and then you're like, kono computer 使いますか? And then they're like, yeah, sure. Whereas if you had just used the native, normal, natural word that's not from 1970s, even if you had a bad accent and all that stuff, it would have been better. Just to say, パソコン, パソコン. テレホンカード. Like, I hope this book is updated at this point. Telephone card. Yeah, big problem. And this is another thing. It is better and easier to have a physical textbook, but a huge issue. I think if I were to actually release something, it would be like a video game where there's like alpha, beta, and then you release the final thing, because there's just so many mistakes that you can't predict. And you need to let people use it and find the glitches and stuff like that, like typos or whatever. But in 5 years, who knows? Smaho, the word smaho might be outdated, and you just don't know. この鍵は誰のですか? Yeah, like it's good to know. This style is actually how the Mormons learn language. Is they will do tons of repetitive sentences like this, very basic everyday structure to learn structure. So definitely one of the best methods if you're doing it with other people and in person. At a textbook, listening and repeating, I don't know. I don't think it would be as effective. はい、どなたですか? こんにちは、サンタです。これからお世話になります。Yeah. And like words like これから and stuff would honestly just confuse me. And ほんの気持ちです。ほんの気持ちですが. Interesting. Well, let's finish up there. Next week, let's talk about immersion. I want to learn more about immersion, how to teach it, what people are struggling with, give better advice. So, arigato. Thank you guys for chilling, hanging out. Mostly just Bridgewater, but it's good to talk to you, dude. And mata raishu. I'll be streaming again next week. I definitely feel like YouTube has slight delay. Mata ne. じゃあね。